Pro Audio Secrets, a show that helps you to find your own voice in sound.
I think that the key is to niche, as you said, because by niching you can go into direction that you're more passionate about and you are able to provide something exceptional. I do all my sounds custom. I don't really use sound libraries and so on, and I was obsessed with making my own sounds. I love it. Either I do something on my own or I die trying. There are only two options. You cannot give up because crisis will happen eventually. They're unavoidable.
We don't want to work with you because during our show you stopped mixing and hopped on stage to rap with me. So it's clear to me that you want to be a rapper more than an engineer, and that's why I don't want to work with you. So Piotr, thank you very much for making the time. It's really a pleasure to have you on the show. We actually met because you are part of the Pro Audio Academy, and that way we connected already way deep into all your world. So you're all about dark sounds, right? Dark sound design for video games, music as well. That's your main topic. And you run a company called Ivory Tower Soundworks. And it's about game audio, music, and sound effects. And you have a specific topic that circles around dark mood kind of games, right?
Yes, that's exactly the profile of what we're doing. I mean, we started as a more general sound design and music company, but since me and a partner of mine with whom we founded the company, we're always into dark sounds and like the dark science fiction or fantasy games, and we decided that we'll go into that niche, into that direction, and so we did. We tried to build our portfolio so that it so that points clients that we are specializing in this field, in this kind of fiction. So yeah, that's what we're doing, and I think it's a cool way because you always in your craft you always prefer some things over the other things. Like you get jobs that you're not really. I mean, all audio jobs and music jobs are cool, but some are better than the others. And we found out that the ones that we like more, that give us more satisfaction and it's like more artistically geared to what we love, are the games that we remember best from pretty much childhood or teenage years. The one that had like these action FPS motifs. It might sound cheesy or cliche, but with all the guns, action, monsters, and things like that. So that's what we're doing. Yeah.
So you're interested in that genuinely from a player's perspective already. So you like this kind of media, and you indulge yourself into that. So you decided to niche into this to make it more fun for you.
Yes, sir. I mean, like with, for example, if you like to eat cookies, it's not the same as making cookies. So it's the same here, right? Like before you start doing sound design and music for games, you kind of think of it as playing games in a way. So it's obviously it's not the same thing, but the artistic choices that you make when making sounds and music I think are better if you resonate with these types of games and this particular type of fiction. So that's
definitely,
yeah. So that's what works in our advantage, I think.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a good strategy these days to niche in, because that's the best way to reach a certain target audience, i.e. clients, because they actually really know what you're about. And to be passionate in our field goes without saying. I mean, if you're not 100% in, you will not make it. That's always the thing I have to say to my audience, because it is like that. I mean, like, can you agree on this, that we actually have to go 100+% in and be dedicated and very passionate about the audio thing in order to make it in that industry? What is
Yeah.
your experience with that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the competition, I don't like this word because it's not really a competition in a way that I believe that cake is big. So there's a lot of room for pretty much, not everybody, I wouldn't say so, but for many people. And you have to be passionate. You have to be at 120% because there are a lot of people waiting in line. I mean, if you would ask somebody, and so the people ask me, I mean, you do music and sound for a living? I'd say, well, yes, I do. And say that sounds so cool, you know, because I sit at my desk and I do this job and this job. Sometimes I even fantasize of going back to like job where you don't have to be creative every day. You just do your job, which is pretty much the same every day and so on. But so yes, you have to be at your 120%, and there are many people who would like to do the same thing. So I think that the key is to niche, as you said, because by niching you can go into direction that you're more passionate about. And the other thing is that you are able to provide something exceptional in something that you truly love. So you can hardly find anybody who's in the game audio industry, and very often in game dev at all, that doesn't really love what he does. For me, it's like it's not the only thing that I can do in my life. I did pretty like a few other things as well. But for me, it's like if you can express yourself in your job, if you can have some influence over the like the people that will play your game, that will listen to your music, and you know that it changes something. As you see people play your game on the Gamescom, PGA in Poznan, and you see them bobbing their head where music starts, or you see how it affects them when there is a section with a tension, and you see as soon as the music starts going there, and you even see that they react unconsciously. So you know you're doing your job well, and you're having some influence on these people. You're changing something. You're providing this experience. So that's what really I really love it. That's why I do it, and that I wouldn't exchange it for anything else, except sometimes I think I would go back to different jobs that I did, but as soon as I kept reminding myself, why am I doing this, why did I quit it, it's just I changed my mind.
So coming to that point, what we just talked about with the 120%, I just mentioned that term once in a video, and then someone got back to me and saying, "Yeah, this is wrong. There's only 100%. So what do you actually mean with 120%?" Do you have a take on that? What does it mean for you?
Yes. Well, when I think of 120% is when you're staying at 100%, you're basically at the same level, but over time. By 120%, I mean providing more than, well, it's like first developing, right? If you do your craft, you've learned you learned the ropes, you learn how to make sound music and so on. For me, it's exploring something new with each and every project, like putting a challenge on yourself, and trying some different approaches, different genres and so on. And fortunately, every project I work in pretty much differs a lot. So there's always not only a need but a necessity to try something new. So that's what I feel like. Having this 120% is reaching for something new and trying to incorporate it in your job, and not thinking of your job as a 9 to 5, which is this 100%. 0% starts at 9, 100% finishes on 5. That's where it stops. But as you know, for example, we're here past our work time, and we're still doing things that more or less are not inclined, but relate to what we do, right? We talk about our industry, our passion. You know, you're the solid teacher. You're recording a lot of content. You're teaching. You're very active. So you know, it's like it's you know as well what's
Yeah, of
over.
course. This
Yeah,
is oftentimes on top of what I do as a service provider, Foley for projects, then doing the videos on top of that. For me, that's also an explanation for giving more than 100%. For me, this is all part of it. Um, but I think the main point in doing more than 100% is to never stop learning, to never be just satisfied with your result in terms of, okay, I have arrived, I will work like that now for the rest of my career. I'm always happy for a challenge, as you said, to question myself or to reinvent all the things that I do and try to make it better for the next project. And yeah, that oftentimes involves also like working longer than I'm actually getting paid for. And yeah, there is always a fine line, when is enough or whatever, but to me it is, I have rather the inclination to do more and to get to the next level of finesse or level of detail, or like just being better at what I do, than just saying no, they don't pay me more and this is the what they get, you
yeah,
know
yeah, exactly. Like people always expect that that they can do this one thing that's in their comfort zone. Like they make this one cool track or album that will set their musical career to the end of their lives. They will get this one job that will, everything will develop, will start going uphill. Until then, they will just pick one date with they will take their wife on one single date, and she'll be satisfied till the till the end. It never works like that, and so it is here. Like you have to be constantly and evolving and developing to actually even stay competitive in a way. Not only staying competitive, but to get to like better places in
yes,
what you do. So and I also am guilty of it, that we as artists, as craftsmen, we want our craft to be done as good as possible. If you look at all the craftsmen throughout the history, it was very often that they finish their craft, their art over time, even if they were not paid for it. I also used to work weekends when I knew that I couldn't deliver within my time frame. Well, instead of asking to outsource some of my work to the others, or perhaps hiring somebody to help me out, I try to do everything so that it's 100% at least, so that I'm happy with it. So yeah, I know I know this feeling exactly the same way. I mean, I suppose it affects everybody of us. I mean, every one of us. So
yeah, of course. Everyone who wants to get somewhere, if you
yeah.
want to elevate, then this is the thing we're in. And especially when you work in the creative media field, you have to be aware of deadlines and overtime and projects that need to be finished for a film festival or for, I don't know, a release date that they don't want to postpone. So yeah, it might be not the best thing for like family time or the work-life balance, but if we are looking back to our careers and all those years, and you look to other people who are very successful and work on the highest level, there are always these pressure times and deadlines. As I said, for the film festivals, for example, you cannot get around it. And if you don't deliver, because you say like, no, I can't, this is impossible, and then they don't get the mix for handing it in to Cannes, for example, which is running right now as we speak. Yeah, then you might be this was your last gig then,
Yeah, 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 of course. Yeah.
on the contrary, I also learned that in some cases it is your health is definitely more important than a deadline. And sometimes if it needs to be like that, then it's also possible for other, let's say for a TV movie, when there's a scheduled day for the final mix. So the person from the TV station, who is basically the boss of everyone, comes, and the producer and the director, maybe composer is also then there. So they all schedule for that day, and the mixing stage is booked and whatever. Um, let's say you cannot do it and something goes wrong. It's the last thing you want to do, but if you have to do it, those people can reschedule. If it's not like a thing like a film festival deadline or something like that, it's doable. And I realized that when I once hopped in for someone who couldn't work throughout the weekend, so then he kind of dropped the ball, and he said, I cannot do it. And then we had to find someone to step in. And then I just, raised my hand, because it was in my earlier years. That was always the way for me to get those re-recording mixer credits. Yeah. So I stepped into this movie and had to actually learn how this guy mixed his film, and then continued from there. So it was a really difficult task, to be honest. But I was at least the sound designer for that project, so I knew the film and I knew everything, but I didn't know very much about the mix. So
there you go. There's this 120% in action. That's what you're saying.
You go, you do it. It's a harakiri mission, and it's very likely that you blow it.
Yeah.
But if you don't do it, you will never get the credit. And then once you prove yourself as a re-recording mixer, and you can tell what I mixed that movie and I mixed that movie, then people are more likely to give you those jobs. So long story short, I was in the middle of that thing, and then there was the biggest Pro Tools crash bug of all times in my whole life happening on that mix. And it was actually in a way that I couldn't fix it. It was impossible. So I had like all the experts on the phone. So I spent like an entire day to fix that issue, which then ultimately we had to postpone the mix for another day. So then it happened, and it helped me to understand, if it can't be done, it can't be done, and life will go on. At least I did my best, and no one actually blamed me for that. And to give you the thing that happened, it was at a certain point in the timeline. The Pro Tools just crashed. Without saying,
so before you reach this point, it works, but
yeah.
Okay, I
then
get
it just crashes, goes out without warning, done. So you open up, and there are like a million ways to find a problem, to find a solution. So I did all that, but nothing worked. And then there was another sound designer who came in while I was really in disguise, and I was like, every option was already checked, and I was sitting there like, I don't get it to run anymore. So this guy just comes by, looks at it, and says, have you tried this? So he just took a clip in that area where it always crashed, and then he just opened up the clip a little bit to make it a bit longer.
Stretched it up so that it went over this spot where it crashes, right?
Maybe like just open up the handle of it. He didn't time stretch it or something. He just opened the handle a little bit, and then we re-rendered it just in a longer section. Yeah. And then it worked.
Well,
before that, I exchanged the files. Completely new session, everything new. But that worked actually, and no one could tell me that. But so yeah, this is just a side story.
So I suppose it must have been a known bug, right? Because he already knew how to act, what to do.
Yeah, but actually no one except for him knew it, and this actually saved us then. And so that's to this whole thing that you have to do the work if it needs to be done. But sometimes if everything goes wrong, or your health is on the line,
yes.
People have a certain understanding, and they will not blame you for telling them I can't do it. But laziness never brings us to that point. Yeah,
yes,
and no one will accept that. And so what I want to know from you, because I know now that you are in a very specific field of game audio and also music production, but how did you get there apart from being a gamer and interested in that specific type of media and genre? You mentioned you did jobs before, so what was it? How did you start your professional life and how did you end up then doing sound design in that specific niche?
Okay, so I'll keep it short, not to be boring. So I was making electronic music since a long time, but it was more like oriented on these like heavy electro music, which is sort of like between punk music and electronic music. And I came over. I mean, I was contracted by a French label via my friend Jonathan Mick. Like till this day I'm thankful to him. We still have contact. He's a French guy, and then they started releasing my music. So I kind of believed that. I mean, I always knew that what I do musically is exceptional. In a way, I mean, not to be like brag or anything. I just knew that it's something special for me, and it sounds unique and so on. And so I had some releases there, and I kind of believed that I can like go places with my music. And then a friend a friend of mine from primary school, he's a founder of a Hyperstrange studio. I mean, co-founder of a Hyperstrange studio, and he asked me if I can do some music for his game. Not entire music. The most of music was done by a friend of mine and a partner of mine. I mean, we founded Ivory Tower Soundworks with him, Kasper, and he was making. He did most of the music, which you can look it up online. It's Elderborn. The game's called Elderborn, and it's amazing music, more like power metal music and so on. I did some electronic music to it. So yeah, and then we did some music for the game, despite having very different backgrounds. I was more like a music tinkerer. I don't really have any musical education at all. I mean, I have a education of an engineer. I'm an engineer, but I didn't really made use of it any way. But I feel myself like an inventor in music. I try to find new ways of processing and just trying to get outside of this box, And I learned music just enough so that I can understand sound basically with it. And and a friend of mine he's at the opposite end. He's classically trained musician. He has a master's degree in composition, and it turns out that we are very, very different. I don't come from music family. He comes from music family, but our taste for music and the artistic choices are so similar. I mean, so well aligned that we decided, man, we have to start working together because we like the same things. We make the same choices musically and so on, and our cooperation continues until this day. So yeah, that's it basically, right? So here I am.
Quick one. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so now. It really helps the channel to grow and also us to maintain this, and I can promise you to become a better host, to ask better questions and to get the right people in consistently for all of us to grow as audio professionals within our craft and in our business. Thanks again, subscribe now, and let's get back to the episode. Okay, so you have that friend of yours who you know for a long time, and despite your different upbringings, you have this similarity in the sense of your like music, how you approach music, and that's how you then decided to go together on that mission, and you founded your company together.
Yes, sir. That's exactly the way we did it.
Okay, and as I understand, you come from music as a music producer doing this electronic music. Now you also do sound design for video games. Was this just a necessity in order to round up your portfolio, or how did it come about? How did like the sound design entered into your world on top of the music?
Yeah, I'll ask you the same question afterwards because I'm really interested how it was in your case. I mean, I know you've been into hip hop and you still are, but in my case it was well, I was curious about sound design because for me it's like making sound design is like making music but without composition in a way. I mean, I kind of perceive both the same way, and it's more for me like experiment that I can sort of experiment with music without the necessity of making music. So that's the thing I like, and you know, if I have a lot of things to do because I still do most of my like not most but a big chunk of operations. I still do it, like the music and sound design. So if I making sound design for a month, 2 or 3 without making any music, I'm usually so fed up with making sound design that, you know, most often now I start my music pass. I do like 2, 3, 4, 5 tracks, and then I go back to sound design. So fortunately, I mean, I was always interested in sound design because I do all my sounds custom. I don't really use sound libraries and so on, and I was obsessed with making my own sounds. I love it, and that's the core of electronic music. That's what you can do here that you cannot do in other genres. So I don't really understand composers that don't make their sounds at all, but they just use these libraries. I couldn't do so. I mean, what's the point? I mean, that's the coolest thing in music. You can make your own sounds. Well, if you want to replicate some sounds, that's okay, but you know, if you're making orchestral music, then you don't need to do your, you know, sounds from scratch. But anyway, so so typically in my job I do I do both sound design and music, and it is so that when I'm fed up with sound design, I switch. Typically, there's my time for music now to start delivering tracks for our clients, and the other way around. When I'm out of ideas in music, and I'd say, okay, like just I'm finishing this track and it's time for sound design now. Fortunately, I have the option to do it. So that's why I'd like to keep both making music and sound design. Some people say that it's not a good way because you have to pick one to be master of one of these. But I feel like after each pass of sound design, like doing sound design, I get some new, you know, I discover something new in music, and the other way around. After this past half of year making music, like I get to sound design and I learn something new. So I think one enriches the other. So
Yes, I can absolutely follow you. There's this guy, Josh Waitzkin. He has the book, The Art of Learning. And I'm very fascinated about him because he managed to be a grandmaster in chess as a young boy, actually. And then later in his life, he became a world champion in Tai Chi.
see, right?
And he also says that he cross-references the two things, and the one thing helps him with the chess and the other way around. And he actually conceptualized that in that book, The Art of Learning. So I can really recommend that book. How did you learn then sound design? You mentioned that you came from electronic music, which is already a way of sound designing your own music. And how did it evolve then into this profession of coming up with sound effects?
Well, actually, it was pretty easy because, again, making electronic music forces you to make your own sounds. I mean, if you use libraries and samples only, if you're supporting yourself with samples, that's typically okay. But you cannot build something really cool only out of samples. At least I can't. So I actually had to. I stepped in to sound design as somebody who actually knows how to make sounds. I mean, it's not like I knew everything, and I still don't, but I think I had pretty good feel for music. I mean, for sounds when I started sound designing. So it was not a difficult transition for me. But I'd like to still keep. I'd like you to ask you a question as well. What was your path? But you said something very interesting about this guy. The Art of Learning was the name of the book,
Yeah,
right?
Josh
And
Waitzkin, yeah.
Yes, and you said that he's both chess master and a martial arts master, right? So I find the same thing because I run also the other company that's more towards education, and I had to force myself to become, in a way, a master of marketing. And I didn't intended it. I didn't want it to do this, but if I didn't do this, there were no clients. You know, it's either this or this. You just have to
Yeah.
do it, and. And I find so many parallels in music and marketing. Somebody might say, marketing, it's not an art, it's an, a craft of tricking people. That some people even say so. And I don't think this way. It's more like communication, proper communication, expressing yourself clearly, prioritizing things and just having a clear view on what you're doing. And I find it might be counterintuitive, but I find so many parallels in marketing and in music composition. It's like people who don't know both disciplines. I don't think it's like really something intuitive, but then again, I find so many parallels between these topics these areas, these notions that seem so far away, right? So
What are the main common points that you find within marketing and music?
Like the limit of information that you can have. I've read somewhere that people can only hold in mind three things. So if you're providing an offer, if you're prospecting, you cannot expect nobody to remember things that comprise of more than three things to remember, to keep in mind when talking to you or just reading your offer or, your commercial, anything. And I find exactly the same thing in music. If you provide three or more than three things, then people cannot really follow them. And some people might say, okay, but in classical music you have so many themes, you have so many arpeggios, so many harmonies. Yes, but that's the best part is that you really don't have as many different things. You have a harmony, which is accompanied by arpeggio, which is the same thing. It is the same portion of music within a music track, right? The same. So what I think is how I read these masters of classical music, that they build something that's very complex, but kind of is following some rules, has some predictability, and that's why it's so timeless. That's why it can be, enjoyed by people that are far away from trends of music from like 300-400 years ago. So, and it's the same in marketing, I think. That's what marketing taught me about music, that you have to be more picky about the information that you provide, because it clouds the reception of music. That's the main thing that I've learned. But if I would dig my mind a bit more, I would find many, many more parallels, because I find myself when making music, I'm making some choices, and now I think my mind kind of thinks like a marketing mind in a way, in many things. So yeah.
And have you always been in this entrepreneurial state? So did you always want to create your own business, and was this always a plan for you?
No, not at all. I mean, well, the point is that I'm educated in engineering, maths, physics, and so on, and I was horrible at these subjects. I was doing very poorly in school with these subjects. The same on my university. And guess what? The same with my job. So after I graduated, I couldn't. I mean, I find myself in an environment that most people were far, far better than me. They're far more mathematically inclined everywhere I went. So I said, man, I can't stay here, because it's like a disaster. I mean, it's like I don't enjoy it. I don't progress. I don't even have a will to progress in there. So I said, well, either I do something on my own, or I die trying. There are only two options. So that's what I.
How come that you then, in the first place, studied that after being already miserable at school in this field?
Well, my family is a technical, they have a technical background. So. Well, the only viewpoint that I was taught, and I believed it for very long, is that either you're an engineer or you're in trouble. Like these are two options, and of course that's not the case. And I try not to impose the same thing on my daughter. I know I like music, sound design, making your own things, being an entrepreneur is just like the best thing. I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything else. Even if it costs me health, as you said, working over limits and so on. But I wouldn't switch it for anything else. But then again, I think myself that that's the best path for me, and it's my viewpoint. But perfectly, realistically, that might not be the best thing for my daughter. Perhaps she would like to work 9 to 5, doing some other job. Perhaps engineering. Why not? If it's for her, But that's how I went there. I had no choice. I had nothing to lose. Like,
Okay.
that's it.
And then tell me a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, because okay, now we know you have Ivory Tower Soundworks, which is your game company that provides audio for dark mood games.
Yeah.
What else do you have?
So I'm also a co-founder of not a co-founder, but because I bought business that practically just fallen apart. It's called Alpha DJ Center. It's the company where a network of DJs teaches classes from DJing in the entire Poland, basically. And I'm not a DJ myself. I've been a DJ for like 2 or 3 years tops, like 15 years ago, I think. So it's not like I do like it the same way as like riding a bike, right? I can play a DJ set once in a while, but it's not something I cannot live without. And so that's the company. And actually there was an opportunity because I used to be working in this company teaching music production over 10 years ago. And because of the competition that had arisen in Poland, there were that had far better budgets, facilities, everything. They were just a better choice for a client, obviously, case in point. And so we had far better competition than before, because back then we didn't have any competition. The company had fallen. I bought it for about $1,000. Actually, me and my brother bought it. It's about when you calculate from Polish zloty. And I basically bought logo, nothing else, and I had to build everything from the from the ground up, and it was a lesson I never will forget. I mean, you have to do everything. You have to, build websites. So you have to learn about the programming. You have to learn law, at least to the extent so that you know how to, pay your taxes properly, because it's a limited license corporation. I don't know if that's. I mean, I don't think there's this form GmbH in German. It's the same.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the form. So like taxing is a bit more complex than a single entrepreneur. Marketing, writing, copywriting, graphical editing, constructing your products. Even the scale is not so big, It's just like I employ like 7 people in this company. 4 of them I've never met in person. We're talking via Messenger and so on. But they do their job really well, and I just had to learn all these things from so many different disciplines. And you know how it's like. If something fails, you cannot stop. If you stop, it breaks apart. It's just a matter of time. When there is a crisis, you have to work over this crisis. Then you expand, then you learn things, and then you make your next step, right? Then the next crisis, but on a different level, and just constant thing. But it's very rewarding. It's very. I don't know if I could. I mean, again, I say I would go. I would fantasize about going back to my regular 9 to 5 job, doing pretty much anything. But actually, I don't know if I could do it for a week now. I mean,
Yeah, I really admire that. The same journey I also feel I'm on myself, because I was employed for so many years, first in the movies industry, then in the games industry, and before that, I also was kind of freelancing in my early years, but I was way more focused on making music and I had less responsibilities and whatever. So this is not comparable to what I do now. And now I want to build on top of my, let's say, Foley service, an online business regarding the Foley teacher brand with my academy and online courses and other digital products, basically. So this is exactly the things I have to learn now, marketing, copywriting, positioning yourself correctly, market evaluation, the customer avatar kind of thing. And all this is knowledge that no one really teaches you
Yes.
when you go to school or whatever in life. Like everyone kind of in Europe wants to get you to be an employee. I feel like that's
Yes.
the whole schooling system, and no one really talks about these things, how you can do it yourself. And so it's a lot, to learn all these things, to create funnels and get your products in the right shape. um, can you give me an advice, like?
Me to you? I mean, I thought that it's the other way around. Like your brand
No, I
is way
mean,
bigger than you know.
we help each other. You have
Yeah.
7 employees in your company. That is already way bigger than, let's say, my businesses, because I only have a couple of people that I work with as freelancers who do stuff for me, but I don't employ them full time, and
I
it's
me
not seven
neither.
of
I,
them.
I don't employ them full time. No, I mean two of them work full time. I mean we settle on B2B, so it's not like they have the contract with me. So they just bring me invoices and I pay them. So they are like full time, like in this teaching company. But the rest of them they don't work full time as well. I mean it's not as that big.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Anyhow, I mean, what is your, like, for how long do you do this now with the entrepreneurial thing?
It's 2025 now, so on my own, without any support, basically, 3.5 year, 3.5 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you also, on in your early years as an entrepreneur, what are your biggest learnings so far?
Yeah. The thing that if somebody asks me what I would tell myself back then, yes, there are like a few things that I would say. If you want to do something right, do it yourself. That's that's the. I mean, you have to learn to delegate eventually, but the only person you can count on at the start is yourself. You have to do everything yourself, because if you do it, you'll do it right. You'll do it in dedicated way and so on. That's the thing that I learned. And you cannot give up, because crisis will happen eventually. I mean, they're unavoidable. It's like once our site got hacked, and
Hmm.
we couldn't do anything about this. The domain was down the drain because it was classified as hacked, and so we had to put a lot of effort to whitelist it. And we had costs, but the sales practically stopped. And
Mm.
I was thinking we were doomed back then, and I was left alone with this. I was really thinking of giving up, but I didn't. And guess what? This crisis was solved, and we kept on going. So yeah, I mean, I kept on going back then because I was just employing two people back then, and not even full term. Um, fortunately, we didn't have had any legal problems, but these things happen to entrepreneurs. If you look for these big YouTube entrepreneurs, the one that really is helpful, I'm watching his video and I just incorporate things that he teaches. Perhaps there's something about onboarding that you can improve, or perhaps about product, perhaps about your offer. Everything he says works 100%. This is Alex Hormozy.
Mm.
Yeah, you know this guy.
Everyone knows him who's into
Everyone does.
entrepreneurial
Yeah.
things. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
but it works. Everything he says works. I mean, his content deteriorated a bit since like a few weeks perhaps, but anyway, and then you just have to do these things, and that's it, you know. So there's nobody teaching this formally, but I bought his books. I incorporated everything. There wasn't this book from like $20 book, and my sales like tripled. I think it's not a joke. That people say, okay, so your sales will triple. At least it was so in my case. Perhaps there was much room to improve, but you know, and but going back to the question is, what would I recommend? Yeah, but just two things. Like, you have to do everything yourself at the beginning. Don't trust your relatives, your friends, because there will be people who will. If you say, okay, I'm starting my own business, some of them will say, "Oh, that's cool," but you know, deep down they count you will fail. Some of them you might be surprised if you have some successes. I don't even talk about these successes, but if they learn them somehow, you know, from somebody else, I even see that. You know, when I talk to them, they're even sad when they talk to me. So okay, so you tripled your revenue, you know. So it's not happy news for them. So there will be people who'll be wishing you well. And there will be people who will not be wishing you well, and there will be a mix of these people from your family, from your relatives, from your friends. It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't depend on the ties you have with this person. Some people will be, goodwill towards you, and some people will not. So that's the case. Many people are surprised by it, but then again, it's the same in every everybody says it. So this doing everything yourself, at least at the beginning, and not giving up, because failures and crashes and crises will occur. It's just a matter of time.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, yes, I can also prove that this will happen, because you know, I started my first venture with a huge investment, building a Dolby Atmos studio back in Düsseldorf, and then I divorced my wife, and then I had to leave the house and also tear down the studio just after it was built.
Yeah,
I
see?
mean, I spent so many hours, countless hours, to get that room as it was back then. And once it was running really smoothly, then I had to already tear it down.
See?
And start completely from scratch. I didn't even know where I was about to live, you know? And then I lost my job at Ubisoft. I was just a full-time self-entrepreneur, whatever, for 2 months. So I had no financial proof that my company is actually running. And then finding a new place for my studio and to live was kind of scary, you know?
Yeah, of course.
But then things happened, and now I'm here, I'm happy, I do my thing, things work out, and as you said, you have to just keep going, you know?
Yeah. And things happen, all these things you mentioned happen pretty much at the same time, right? So if one thing happens, the other thing follows, and that's exactly in my case. You know, for example, my wife, she had the brain surgery very recently.
Okay.
And I was thinking, okay, so I have to support her. I have to, you know, stop working for a few days. Fortunately, I have both teams that really took the job for me. They did their tasks, and you know, so like 2 years ago, it wouldn't be possible. So I had the possibility to support her and with it. And I was thinking, okay, so this is one misfortune that happens. What's next? And one thing happens wrong, then I just wait for the next or second or third thing that it will, work. That will happen. And well, nothing happened this time, at least. So like fate spared, misfortune for us, But you know, it's yeah. I totally agree with you. But you were. I was asking about what was your path to music, because I'm also I'm not the one who's leading the podcast here, but I'm really interested in perhaps you can.
No worries at all. So before I answer that, is your wife all right?
Yes, she is. She's recovering now, and I don't think I can speak too much about the details of it, but it was a dangerous procedure.
Hmm.
So it was not a nice time for us, fearful, and but
Yeah. All the best for her.
thank you.
Like swift recovery. And I just one thought to this because I think you can also see this as a blessing that you now, as you mentioned, had your teams already in place, and 2 years earlier you couldn't handle the situation as you could have, as you did now. So okay, there's difficulty, but within the difficulty there is ease. That is, for example, written in the Quran, and I totally see this also in your example.
Yeah, like
Um,
every cloud has a silver lining, right? That's what you said.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the case. That's I also practice. How do you call it? I forget the word. Gratefulness every morning, and it's easy to think that like listing things you're grateful for actually helps to view these things. When something bad happens, I always think and try to come up with scenarios what could go worse, and it wasn't really. Oftentimes, it was not really far from probable. So
Yeah.
yeah, I know that's a valuable teaching. So yeah, I agree as well. Totally,
Yeah,
totally.
definitely. Being grateful is necessary as we are not really in charge as humans, as at least my belief.
Yeah.
Um, so to answer your question, I got into sound design after being a rapper for many years. And I'm still doing rap for passion, I am really passionate about this stuff.
Can
And
I
I'm
find
also
you online? Can I look
yeah,
for?
yeah, you can find me under the name Musa Gerner. So not Bastian Gerner, but Musa, spelled M-U-S-A.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
you
Cool.
can find it.
Yeah.
Um,
YouTube knows you. Cool.
yeah, I was trying to keep it up again after a couple of years of not releasing music, but now I decided to wait a little bit. I have basically a third album here on my computer that just needs a bit of final mixing and mastering. But I want to build a social media around it and to make it impactful. So therefore, I'm waiting a little bit
Hmm.
because now I'm more focused on the Foley teacher and to get my business running, and then I can maybe more easily focus on the music again. But that was how I started, just being so passionate about rapping, and then knowing that there are only two things in my life: audio engineering and music. And that was very clear early on in my life. Like, I could say this to my father when I was around 17, 18, maybe. I could say it like that. And that's actually how I then conducted my life. I was into music heavily, had my own recording studio, dropped out of school, worked with all my friends, jobbed as a bouncer in a club. I mean, it was not really like I'm not the bouncer kind of type, but the club was the type of club that I could be a bouncer in. And so I worked there also a little bit as a DJ and whatever. So I had little money, but also little cost. I had my own studio, doing music all the time, touring with my friends, like small time. So never really making money. And then getting married after converting to Islam early on,
Hmm.
with age 23. So I first found my love to God back through Islam, and then I met my first wife shortly after that, and then shifting towards sound design, or let's say sound for film, because that actually was the only thing I thought I didn't look into back then.
Hmm.
I entered at studios as an assistant engineer. I worked on live music events, but I never made it into this realm of engineering that I wanted to be at.
Hmm.
So I never really mixed proper music professionally, like consistently for clients. I also never did front of house or monitor mixes on that level that I wanted to. I always was an assistant, an intern, like just a helping hand, and
Hmm.
this was kind of going on for years. I was interning for years. Nothing really happened because always my focus was my own music. Yeah, there
Okay.
was this pivotal point where I had the opportunity to be front of house mixer for a whole tour, but then the guy told me, we don't want to work with you because during our show you stopped mixing and hopped on stage to rap with me. So it's clear to me that you want to be a rapper more than an engineer, and that's why I don't want to work with you. And that really opened my eyes. And it was fair enough, to be honest. So when I then started to look into film sound, I switched my priorities because of also the marriage thing, and I want to be the provider of the family, so I had to earn money. I thought, okay, I haven't looked into this. Let's give it a shot. And then I found my calling in this. I wasn't accepted at the university, but then I landed internships again, and then from internship apprenticeship, and from there the first job, and then I stayed there for 7 years, and then I worked for Ubisoft for 5 years, and then I now are the Foley teacher doing my own thing
Hmm.
after being employed for 15 years.
Hmm.
And that's also the time I needed to learn everything I know now and to be able to do it in a way that I do it now. So for me, it's totally fine to be having been employed 15 years. I don't regret that. I don't want to get back to it, to be honest. But I personally needed that time to be the expert I am today. And I'm very grateful for every year I could spend in those companies, because I learned from the best, starting from my apprenticeship towards the 7 years I worked in this other company. All the re-recording mixers that helped me along, and I could always ask my questions. I could see how they work. I could see other sound designers, how they deliver their projects, as I was in-house and maintaining or sometimes doing deliveries for other projects. This all helped me a great deal. And then building studios for those companies also helped me a lot. And I was so passionate about that, that I spent all my spare time to get those studios right for those companies. I wasn't even paid for that, but this was just my mission, my thing. I loved it. And now I know a lot about how to build a studio on the highest level, and that's how I then got my own studio right, even with less budget.
Yeah, yeah, and
So
it's
this is
such a big experience, I like this is a
yeah,
long experience.
a long experience, and the journey goes on. I'm really happy that I can do all the things that I'm doing now. And to finish off, the question that remains for me is, how do you now enjoy being in my Pro Audio Academy? Because you joined as an entrepreneur, who has some, you are already some steps ahead in that sense. Yet you joined my Pro Audio Academy in order to elevate quicker. This is the thing that I want to help you all with. So can you give me a little insight of the last couple of weeks, because this is a brand new thing? What was your experience so far?
Yeah, sure. So I joined because I'm this 120% guy. I always want to know a bit more, learn from, have different viewpoints. You're the long, you work in the industry for a very long time. So who do I ask, better than you? Although you're more focused in Foley, but anyway, you know the industry for a very long time. I also knew if it's a community, I'll be in community amongst people who have different viewpoints. I knew that it's an international community, so from different places, different countries, and I joined the community like I think it's like 2 or 3 months, I think. Like 2 months, not even 2 months, but like what I like about it the most, that it's driven by the needs of the community. We always, like, everybody's a bit different, but then again, there are many things that we can agree on, and being among people who still develop, who find their way in game audio, because as you said, like many of them are a bit earlier in their timeline of career, I suppose, but it's just a timeline, it's just, it didn't happen yet. That's the point. At least I see it this way. It's there, but in the future, but it's already there. And so yeah, that's what I like. I see different viewpoints. I can ask for not advice, but the second pair of eyes to see what I'm doing, how I'm preparing, how I'm developing the brand. So yeah, like, if we just started, so I can't really say much more, but so far I enjoy it. I do. But again, time will tell. We'll see. Like, what's in front of us. What's next?
Yeah, I also enjoy the process, that this is a new thing. I had this idea. Also, the idea of the Pro Audio Academy came actually through something I did for someone for free, without anything that I wanted in return for that. I mean, it was just my dentist. The story is really crazy. My dentist is kind of a celebrity dentist. He knows all the famous football stars, rappers, and I got recommended by random people in the kindergarten back in Berlin. They said, yeah, we studied with that guy, you moved to Düsseldorf, so go to Ajmal. We studied with him, he's cool. So I went there, and then in the first meeting, he checked me up, and then we talked about rap, and he said, yeah, I also did rap back in the days. He's a bit older than me, so he's in that golden era age
boom
range.
bap, boom bap rap.
I was also in boom bap, but he was even earlier than that. So he's maybe 45 now, 46. So this 6 years that he has, like, over me is always something I envy about those people, because they were actually, like, in the early 90s active when I was still too young and had no MTV to get an idea of Big E and Park and what's happening in New York. So he is of that generation. So he was involved into hip hop earlier than me, and again, he connected me with that director, and this director had his first long form film as a director, and he needed someone to do the sound. So I hopped on the project for free. I gave him a whole infrastructure, connected him with all the people I knew, so he got a proper sound design and even final mix. And through that, music composer was then also coming along. So he was really benefiting from my network and from all these things. And for me, it was just, okay, I do it so that I have one more director in my portfolio who might then wants to continue to work with me, and also liked the guy, and the project was cool. So, but then there was just this one phone call, when I was in the middle of thinking about my business, and I made up the numbers and looked at it, and I thought, oh, even if I coach 30 people this year or 50 people this year, the numbers don't add up to my goals, And then the guy, exactly in that moment, when this number hit me, that all my plan I made up for the whole month of December, I was like really into it and making a whole plan and making a new business case and this was really like intense time, And the pinnacle was like this moment, like, okay, this all doesn't work. Then the phone call comes. This guy calls me and basically gives me the idea of the Pro Audio Academy in a different way. But then I took that from him and developed the whole thing to a different audience. So I not narrowed down to people who just want to learn how to do Foley from me. I opened it up more to people who are aspiring, who want to get to the next level, because I also see this in myself, that I can be, very understandable, or I can understand what people want and need, and I can give them motivation. I can push people to get to the next level. I see that in myself, and I see a lot of results with people that I did this with. So I thought, okay, maybe I open up and do this. And there was so long that I was looking for something in a way in this area. I knew that making the same type of coaching with more people, you can scale. Yeah, if you do it one-on-one, it's always
unscalable.
Yeah. So I had this in mind, but I had not a clear path, And that's also something you said, that you need the time, you have to put in the time, and you shouldn't stop. Yeah. 2 years ago, I had no idea how to run an online business. Now I have a very clear idea about it. And also, 1 year ago, I didn't know how to make kind of a scalable thing out of it. Today, I have the Pro Audio Academy, which is starting out, and there's so much way to improve. But it's already there, and that's an achievement, you know?
Yeah, but the
And
gears are grinding already, right?
yeah, we're doing it. We're improving it already. Even in 2 months, I have a now very much more clear vision of it, what it is and what it can be in the future. So this is the thing, yeah. Um, Thank you very much for the conversation.
Thank you for
For
having
also
me. Yeah.
for putting the trust into the Pro Audio Academy. That's how we actually met. Now we take it to the next level together. I wish you really all the best for your two companies, for your family, and also for your participation within the academy. I appreciate all the things that you do there.
Thank you.
I see you. I see that you bring a lot of value and help the others along, and I hope you get the value out of it as well.
Sure, thanks. I mean, the pleasure is mine. And thanks for having me. I always like to chat with professionals. So yeah, that's thankful too.
Yeah. Then see you in another chat that we do, episode 2 together.
Sure.
I'm looking forward to that.
Anytime.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for staying up until the end. It really means a lot to me. You're helping this channel already by staying that long, and I hope you could gain valuable information and motivation and inspiration for your own life and your own career. If you haven't done so, please subscribe. As I said, DM me on Instagram if you feel that we could collaborate together. And if you haven't subscribed to my newsletter, there's also a link in the description. I'm sharing all the actionable to-dos from our podcast in a nutshell within this newsletter bi-weekly. And that's it. Enjoy one of the next ones and see you there. Peace, the Foley Teacher.